The third part of our program is something I've been looking especially forward to. We have Queen Quet, who serves as the Chieftess of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and she is joining us, I think, virtually. Has she zoomed in? Okay. Good. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to her.
Work together, children, don't you get weary. Work together, children, don't you get weary. Work together, children, don't you get weary. Great camp meeting in the promised land. Down here, Panisha shoreline, 100 children to see this evening. You're the Yeddi disya. Came from way out in the bush harbor. This your time evening. Oh, your ancestors, Igbo, Mandinka, Malenke, Yuliba, Gullah, Yeezy, Mendi, Temni, Ifi, Yamasi, Adisto, Cree, all of them together so. Oh, I read of us. Oh, I live in the evening. Oh, I experiencing the most broke down in law and thing. Oh, I walk, or one of them do. And they're clean, the dust. And sometimes you go on to the creek. Oh, the sun still high in it. And breathe them in. And breathe out. And maybe there, one day, Ella mother, go and there. For start up, go to a shout like a ship. Upon the shoreline. Not bush up. Not brush up. Make the soil. Quiet in. This your soil. But we still there. But we have been here. And we in the grind away. To October. So plenty of time. Well, the rest of people, like 100 children, in the Kenya, say they've been going we. Who will be? How will be? How for learn we? How for crack we teeth? All that kind of thing like that. It take away. Plenty of what they are the rest of children behind. So, if people are Yeddi now, and then Yeddi we crack we teeth like a short tall. Because they come out to we. But for we, who had this short thing, 100 children say, did it for, celebrate, did it for, study about all these are 2 days. Or 2 days, if 100 study about this short thing, then 100 would study about what? There are plenty of the rest of people that use. But they ain't there and we. Ain't there and we don't. Ain't part of we mother with and thing like that, tall. But we don't take on all this shit thing. And who we be, that we be Gullah Geechee. We be resiliency. So even when the other rest of people talk, say, we should have true this shit we. We elders, we ancestors. Ain't all true and we. Some of we like me simply learned other languages. Learn to be bilingual. Learn to be able to do this terminology that we learned from the world you all live in and work in daily. Code switch. And we've had to have the ability as Gullah Geechees here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida, especially those of us who are not in the urbanized areas like North Charleston, where many of you are sitting tonight, but that are on the sea islands, literally living in the Atlantic Ocean. We have had to be literally resilient over not only our lifetimes, but as a cultural group over centuries, because people did not want to take the time to actually respect who we are as a people, but instead said their way was the way we had to do what we do. Their way and lifestyles, their culture was what we would have to take home. But in our community, we realized very quickly a lot of what the Western world presents is linear. Our culture is circular. That's why the shout is circular movement. That's why even the sweetgrass baskets that was spoken about earlier, these are often circular. All of them start with the circle in the center. So even as people sing our spirituals and they ignite their spirit to move They bring in a power that has come from that circle of connection that is represented in the Sankofa bird. As they would say in the Caribbean, go back and fetch it. As we would say here, if honey ain't we know where honey the day from, honey ain't going know where honey the going. So you have to know about your past, know it effectively, know it efficiently, know it accurately enough to be able to go get the pieces you need to carry on and go into the future. But how could you do that if others who didn't have respect for you, and some don't now, have respect for you as a native person to the coast, a native of the island, an indigenous Gullah Geechee person? If they didn't have that respect, didn't respect us enough to say that we could enter the hollowed holes of education, K through 12, or in institutions of higher learning. If we've been a crack, we teach so. You say we be crack anything, work up like that. If you've been a crack, I'm like this shit. So this ain't for 100 children. Many very intelligent Gullah Geechees didn't make it through K through 12, much less into institutions of higher learning, because somebody else who was of a different culture, somebody else who had a different language, did not understand something that your theme this year is all about: better together. The Igbo, Mandinka, Malinke, Yoruba, Gullah, Gizi, Mendi, Temni, Ifik, Kusabu, Edisto, Yamasi, that run through the blood lines, the DNA of many of us who be Gullah Geechee. They understood something they had to muddle with, that many people who have walls full of degrees still have not comprehended. That when God divinely orders it, you can't do better than that. So God divinely ordered that instead of being defeated by those who beat our ancestors during chattel enslavement, who harassed and beat us native Gullah Geechees over the years in educational classrooms, literally offered corporal punishment, not only at missionary schools, but also within so-called rooms that were supposed to be schoolhouses, facilities that were supposed to educate, switched, and what did they do? Denigrate. They did not grasp that this cultural community had actually taken from each other cultural group, each other ethnic group that it encountered, and made a circle that became a language of a people, the Gullah language, that today many wish they could really speak, many wish they could really teach, but words alone have no cultural context. So you simply learning vocabulary, hunting it down from an archive, and then standing before a class and saying, oh, I have this list of vocabulary words and I'm a linguist, or I feel like this is something that'd be quaint to now have in a college course to say I teach the Gullah language is insufficient, because there's a reality of existence that has to incorporate all that strength, all that power, all that energy that is embodied in the word resiliency or resilience. So that's why I say to you that in the Gullah language, we don't have the word resilience. But I have now spoken around the world at the United Nations and various locations throughout all 50 states of the United States, and over the last year through many screens to many audiences like this one tonight, about this word resilience. And as I sat here for the last, it's been an hour and 20-something minutes I've been sitting, waiting to be called on. I said, God had to divinely order this test of resilience. So as an academician myself, as a scholar myself, as a person who has taught many college courses, I said, let me take some time and I'm going to look up what in the Western world is the definition of resilience again tonight, because I know more often than not they change the dictionary as the words go out and become part of the popular vernacular. Eventually, they make their way into the dictionary. So I'm just going to check and see if they changed it since the last time I spoke on this topic and defined it for someone. But it hadn't changed. The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, also called elasticity. Well, elasticity, we often think of when we think of rubber bands. But I think about the fact that the word last is part of it. Our culture has had the ability to last because we didn't just have ancestors and elders that took a few words and put them together and created a language. We didn't just have those ancestors and elders that then took those words, had them ignite in their spirit in the bush arbors, the brush arbors, the praise houses, the church, and then create the song, the spiritual, which is now not only the official music of the Gullah Geechee Nation, but the official music of the state of South Carolina that have also heard sung around the world, but sung very differently than how it sounds when I did upon the praise house and things like that. I right up on St. Helena Island where I did from. The language is not the same. The cadence is not the same. The feeling is not the same. The movement is not the same. And that harkened me back to the classrooms where my classmates who couldn't code switch weren't resilient enough to literally take the beating and survive. And then I think about the ones that did, but how they cannot speak Gullah today, because it was beaten out of their spirits. And it beat down their spirits. And then I think about folks in my family who were resilient enough to hold on to our tradition, hold on to our culture, and literally sew it together. And sew it so strongly that just like a great sweet grass basket, you can't just tear it apart. Knowing that they had the same strength, our ancestors that worked in the sea island cotton, even as the bowls cut their hand and they bled on it. That same strength that they had to have when they were out there in the midst of what I hope they fed you there tonight, in the midst of this Carolina gold, when it's growing, it looks pretty, but there in the midst of it is a danger. Snakes, gators, all these things that came against our ancestors, even some of our elders that survived and thrived, even under those harsh conditions. They were able to last. And we, as a people, as Gullah Geechees, have been able to last on this coast in spite of people not valuing our culture, not valuing who we be, red or us, the language that God give me, and not valuing all we had to offer to the world. And now being resilient enough, though, to have cultural techniques and abilities that have allowed us to thrive as sea levels rise, as the climate changes, and even in the midst of a pandemic, as many call it, we've been able to take all those pieces and, like I've done for the past month with my family, sew them together, stitch them together, and remembering and embodying walking together, children, because we are better together. We are able to be resilient against anything that comes up against us together. And I know as a group of women that are especially in a field that is more male dominated, as women in higher education and the higher administration of institutions go, meaning you're the president, you're the one at the top, you're the one where the buck stops there. You have to be resilient to go through all you go through, to break through glass ceilings. And if you are a woman of color, There are more ceilings above that glass ceiling. And if you are a Black woman, there is something overboard, a metal piece, something over that extra glass ceiling. And somehow you lasted this long to be there today, to be able this evening to sit with others that are literally your peers and commemorate, celebrate, honor one another in the legacy that you have. But I especially honor those who be Gullah Geechee on what did this evening. Because we embody all of them. Well, we great-grandmother and then foresee. But they've been a fearful way. I have bush harbor and that brush harbor. They're a shout for evening just like this show. But see, yeah, I ain't just gonna build this building. One day, you and I build it. We got it. Even you know like this show. They got Yeddi we. And they got Yeddi the way we crack we deep for truth. And they ain't no longer gonna say we cracky. They ain't gonna say we backward. They can say we brilliant. And so it's been a blessing. I have done a lecture, and I have quoted from that lecture over probably about the last decade. The title of the lecture was called From Backward to Brilliant. And it was about my Gullah Geechee people, who many in institutions of higher learning called backward, wrote down that we had an inability to actually speak their language. I'm pretty sure that when I'm speaking this way, you all there in the room overstand me. If I had spoke like this here, hi y'all, you probably would have got that too, sent you from South Kakalaki. However, when I throw them down like this and thing like that, I'm gonna chill, I'm like, no, overstand this another day from you. And one good thing, as I'm proud to say, I lasted tonight waiting. I lasted over the many years that it's been since I've been at this conference, because this is actually the second time that I've had the honor of presenting for South Carolina women in higher education for your annual conference. And know this year I didn't come in person because I got good sense. I got mother wit. And when the Spirit tells me not to do a thing, I don't do it. And so my health was what was important. So therefore, I'm not doing presentations for the most part inside buildings. But I pray that this mechanism that I studied 4 years, my degrees in computer science, that this mechanism tonight has not separated us, but connected us and connected more of us in a way that will help us last together, that will help us strive together, that will help us expand our circle together as women in higher education that have a mission to not only educate. And what I usually do is not education. I tell people I edutain. So if you feel entertained, that's on you. But I pray that when you leave from me, that what you get is something that enlightens you. That, yeah, it might have felt good. You might have even got a laugh. But in the end, it's something that you will think about and something that will make your journey better. It's about enlightenment. It's about upliftment. It is about this very moment of getting better. That our latter days shall be greater than our former days. And that I pray not only for you, but for the Gullah Geechee Nation too, that you sit in the midst of, that you sit in a place where the foundation for it, our culture, was poured, a place where the crime against humanity went on for eons. Our effects are still felt. So I don't take it lightly when a group of educators ask me to keynote for them, a key or to open the door. Notes I expect educators to take, that resiliency only comes after the fact a harm has been done. And that spirit, that body, that soul, and that mind has to be able to retake shape. And pray that that shape is a better one, a one where there's more respect for it, there's more understanding, There's more benefit that we can have together than we can have apart. And so I pray that tonight our circle expands all the more. I pray that in the future I can be with you again in person. In the meantime, these electronic means help us to connect every day instead of once a year or once a decade, because I think it's been more than a decade since the last time I connected with all of you at this particular association and conference. So you all please, if you are those social media people, and I would expect you to be, since all them churn that on the children got your class and things like that, all they do step on their phone, I figure you're on Facebook. Follow Gullah Geechee Nation on Facebook. Follow GullahGeecheeNation.com. Follow at Gullah Geechee on Twitter. And let me give you an education tonight. Gullah is Gullah. Geechee is Geechee. And no I in Geechee for the we. So follow at Gullah Geechee on Twitter, at Gullah Geechee on Instagram. Stay in touch with me. Connect with me. And let us work together chilling. Don't get weary. This is a great camp meeting this evening. And I'm so glad that God gave me the time, the energy, the resilience to be with you and to bring a little bit of the shoreline into the ballroom and over the airwaves so that we can have a show together, that you're still at work together, and that you'll continue to respect all the cultures that you encounter, and that you will do better than what was done in the past, and that you'll have a respect for those that live and embody Gullah Geechee culture. Google is not God. Google is not God. Say it one more time. Google is not God. So you cannot learn Gullah Geechee culture over Google. And you can't go by with each term to put on your TikTok, because I have seen some degradation of culture because of social media. And I apologize on behalf of all of us computer scientists that have caused this. Culture is a lived thing. And I'm so happy that for Black History Month, we have this living opportunity to celebrate right here in this way together, uplifting each other as sisters of education and those that will go together, knowing that we're better together and we're strong and resilient and we going to stand even through it all. We going to make it. So I pray many blessings upon all of you. I pray that you remain safe, strong, and healthy. And I look forward to coming to your universities and to your universities coming to us here at the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition and working with us literally in the field on work here to sustain the Sea Island environment in spite of all that's rising up environmentally. Trust me, we have faith, and even the water can recede. And we pray that our reaching out to one another never does, but that instead we unite in the circle. And I pray love will be there for all of we, and that God will hear our prayers, heal the land, and that we all stand. No matter where Hunter to come from, if Hunter to come ya or Hunter to been ya. I'm so glad for great Hunter and welcome Hunter to the Gullah Geechee Nation from the Midland, from the up country, wherever Hunter going back on your journey tomorrow. We pray traveling mercy to you and for all what dear with me visually tonight. Punish a Zoom thing. Oh, me hopes of joy done coming on our soul, and we bring you that little bit. This your Black History Month and Black Our Story Month. May our ancestors shout with we. Peace, love, and blessings. Thank you for inviting me. And I pray y'all have enjoyed the evening and that you can rest and have a blessed day tomorrow.